So here we are. It's been a while since I've done any lighting videos. Also, it's been a while since I've done it in Unity. So I figured why not do it with the update of 2020 and HDRP being more established. I thought I'll take a scene that was originally not made for HDRP. The project has been upgraded by going to Windows, Render Pipeline, HDR Render Pipeline Wizard, and I've done the necessary upgrades. You'll see also that it has the default settings already for this specific scene. I'm leaving it as is for now. It might change as we do lighting. I might change some of the things, but basically the exposure is on automatic. It's using tone mapping ACEs, so I should get more or less the correct lighting in the beginning. The same goes for the HD render pipeline. It's using deferred, and everything is more or less on the default in terms of contact shadow and everything. So I'm keeping this locked so it's easily accessible for later. So I'll right click and add a new inspector over here so I can change the settings on the files or the assets that I might be adding. So to start off, this is the scene. It's kind of like a workbench, basement, garage kind of feeling, and you might be noticing quite early on that it's looking weird. Now the first reaction might be it's because it's missing some lighting, but that's not necessarily the case when you see this, because assuming I add a light, just to say I'm adding a light in here, I go to light and let's add a point light, and I add a point light and I add it here, and the lumens is 600, which is it's okay. I would probably go for an 800 one, but you can see nothing's happening. It's real time. I go to baked, turn on the shadows, and I click bake, and it's not really doing anything. Nothing's happening. You can't really see the light a lot. Okay, and we don't really need to bake at the moment either. To save time, we're gonna skip it. This is default settings for now. By reducing it, obviously the setting will render quickly for the testing purposes. So what's the problem? Well, if I go real time and I just crank it up to, you can see it's starting to show some results. But you don't want to do that because that's not realistic, because we are aiming for some realistic lighting. So the issue here is, what seems to be working for me is to add a reflection probe, and for now I'll just add one in the middle. I'll use a sphere because it's so we go to lights. For now we add like maybe a light here, duplicate, add it around here. Okay, then we do a bake just to get the feeling for things. To bake, because we want to be quick. We don't want to do too much here. And everything gets baked. Sure, we can use that for now. Let's not have no filtering for now. Let's do this one on maybe medium. Let's just quickly do a starting. So you can see that there are some issues with the reflection here because the blend distance is over here, right? Because we have set the blend distance to 1. That means the x-axis is in fact around 12, and you can see there's some white on the corners here because of again the blend distance is right. So you can already see it's trying to figure it out. You can see that with the current settings, it's actually covering a lot of areas with just these two lights. So while it's trying to render, let's just go through a few things you want to keep in mind when you use HDRP and when you do lighting as realistic as possible. So reference is obviously number one. You want to make sure that you have the necessary references to get an idea of the brightness and illumination of what you need. Like, this is just a quick tutorials. I personally will not be using this. I might use it on paid tutorials, but this is just an opportunity to give you a general idea of what you want to do. The second thing you want to do is generally get an idea of the lumens of your light sources. So as we just looked earlier, this particular one has 600 lumen. So according to our references, our references doesn't state 600 lumens, but you also have to keep in mind how many watts this area has and if it's a standard or halogen. We don't know for sure. We know it's not that. We know it's not SVL. So in terms of realism, we can look at the light source here and what's been modeled. So knowing this, let's assume it's halogen or standard. So let's go for 800 to kind of get the feel for these things, okay? So you can see it's baked. You can see, okay, it looks okay, right? It's decent enough. Doesn't look there's anything wrong. With some more light reflections put out later, it will be a lot better. But for now, we can get the work done. So let's select both of them and let's actually increase it to 800. Temperature. So we just talked very briefly of how to look up the information and what you should try and look for and balance out. The other thing is just generally type of color. Now, because this is a workspace, you might go for a bit cool white, bright white. So the color is between 3500 and 4100. So let's try that out. Let's do color temperature. So right now it's actually on 6570, which is why it has this distinctive look or neutral look. So let's actually just keep going down to around 4000. Let's look. And maybe we want it warmer. So let's go down to, say, all the way down to 3500, you know, approximately. So let's do another quick build. And you can see it's already a different tone just because of the color alone is being changed now. That's why we're doing step by step, so you get in general idea what happens when you make this decision and choices. So while that's happening for a few seconds, let's have a look at the fluorescent. Now, a fluorescent light, depending on the type of light, has also different lumens. Now, in this example, there are two of them, so they have around 3600. However, the average one is 2300. This one is suggesting 3600. This one is suggesting 2400. So 3600 seems to be a good starting point before we actually figure out what works and doesn't. In terms of color, there are different color temperature that works for different reasons. So typical applications, you can get a general idea of where they use these colors. Now this is where all of these interesting things starts to continue to happen, and that's how and why lighting can be interesting. Now, according to these suggestions, cool white seems to be used at offices, hospital, and manufacturing, right? That is telling me that for this particular setting, we might want to go for 4000 to 5000 K for the fluorescent light in the room with 3600 luminance, which sounds pretty bright to me. You can see it is pretty bright already with these examples due to the range as well. So for this though, we're going to try something else. So for this light, we will just quickly call this to roof light. roof bulb light. It's kind of important to keep these organized, at least on a professional level. Let's click on the area light. Let's just place it somewhere here. Okay, and let's get it down on this level. Let's turn off the gizmos a bit, so it's looking this way, which means I hold on control and I rotate it a little bit. Okay, and I place it around here, right? So you can see the size of this. So we want to expand it a bit on the Y direction because we rotated it, right? We didn't necessarily have to rotate it, but we are doing that nonetheless. So we put it around this. We turn up the gizmo and have a look at if we need to expand it. So around here seems to work fine. So let's do 2 on this one, and let's trust this one works. So with intensity, here it gets a bit complicated. So if we do actually go for 3600, it's starting to fight between the different lighting. And then we add a color to be around, let's say, 4500 or 5000. So it's a bit more on the white end. So let's go for 5000 here. The range, let's have a look and see if we can balance out the range a little bit. Maybe something around here, or a little bit bleed into the environment, perhaps to around 4. Let's see how that works out. Turn on the shadows, then see if we need to change, put it around here. Okay, and then bait, and then we do another one. Let's just see if we can get the GPU to work again. Turn off progressive, just go for everything at the same time. Okay, so that's interesting. So these things can happen for different reasons. If I go for 64, 256, 256, 3 bounds, 2 advance, 1024 medium, to another round, takes longer. You can see it's starting to clean up a little bit, so that's why you see it. But as experience as you get, you don't really get bothered by it because you kind of know what you're looking for and what you're not looking for, right? So what bothers me with this one is just generally it's having this weird radius, right? So I'm going to increase the radius to 10. And I'm gonna do another bake because I want to see how far the light goes and if I can get rid of this weird circle that should not be happening. So we can see here it's spreading out. So that was on 10. So let's do a 5 because we don't necessarily want it to fight and spread too much, not yet anyway. So 5. You can already see it's having some issues. So let's go for 6. Okay. Because of the intensity. So if I go down on intensity, let's say if I go down to actually 800 and do another one. You can see it's more subtle, right? So these are the things we are paying attention to when we do this. So back to 3600, do an 8 and allow the light to spread out a bit. Okay, there we go. It's, you can see that it's casting some shadow on the side, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at the moment. So let's duplicate it for now. And what we want to do, generally speaking, is we want to try out this one over here. So we put this over here, we do that, and we hold on control and we tilt it over, right? We put it here. Okay. So that also reveals something, because I don't know why I don't see it right now, is the general size of it on this axis over here. Obviously it sharpens everything. So these are the things you also want to pay attention to. So I will try maybe 1. You can see it gets a bit more sharper the closer down it goes. Right? See that? So let's do 1.2. Okay. Put it back. So we want it to be somewhere here. Alright. Then we do another lighting build very quickly to see how everything interacts with each other for now. Okay. Okay. So you can obviously see it's pretty bright. See, this line happens when you bake. Okay. Let's take off. Take on the game view. Okay. Interesting. So let's do 512, 512. 4 bounces, filtering 2048. High. Let's do another round. So this is obviously too bright because of the current settings. It doesn't mean it's necessarily bright because our exposure is set to automatic. But we can tell and we know from what we can see here, right, that there is some issues going on here. So let's do 1.1 and let's just go back to the 2600, which is the average luminance. Okay. And then do another light build. Where it should have shadows. Let's just place it somewhere better, like this. Let's go into this one, have a look for something. Click on it. And what we want to look for is just emission input. Let's use emission. Let's do this. And we know we have the white color, but we also know it's not totally white, right? It's a bit of this kind of white. And then we'll do something like this. And you can see it's looking a bit brighter, so it's making a bit more sense. So that's everything. It's just very small detail. Now, normally I would actually start with exterior lighting in a more normal sense, but let's see how that works out now if we add it a bit later. So I think it's here. Turn on enable. Let's just do baked for now. And let's go for, actually let me help and show you sunlight looks depending on the time of day, but let's just say it's pretty early. So let's do images, sunlight, daylight looks. Let's see if we can find the information. So 10,000 full, okay. Generally, let's go for 12,000 for now, and just let's see how that works out. Let's see if Google knows what I'm doing. Okay, so 5,600 is the suggested. You can see this here as well. Right, so let's go for like 5,000. Something around here, and let's allow it to build light again. Now in normal cases I would not generally have this kind of lighting, because you would choose the mood and the type of lighting to get the desired effect. So you would maybe turn off these and keep them on, you know, to have a focal point for your lighting. So it looks kind of like this. It's good. So let's keep it on 4, and let's keep this one on 14. And then the idea here is to move it back and forth to make sure it's not super bright. And you also actually have to go here. You can see it's kind of clipping for this particular area over here. This is okay because it's super bright and it's daylight, so it's not a big problem in this particular case. Okay. And let's go back to this. You might do compensation, and what compensation does is compensate above or below that value. You can see it's very contrasty, which doesn't necessarily suit us, because generally speaking we have a pretty bright scene, so you don't necessarily want to do that. So let's take on adaptation. For ease of use, let me just move the camera into the lighting for now. So let's do this. Okay, let's go global. We want to just check. Right. Okay. Turn on tone mapping, and you can see what tone mapping does. It kind of even out even more. So if I go back to here and I do open up the tone mapping, I can see the effect it has. Currently on neutral, we'll actually go to ACES. So it gives even more contrast, right? So the bright lights that are in fact bright, you'll see they are pretty bright. So when that happens using ACES, you go here and you kind of think a bit more about the lighting. Don't want the luminance source. If you do average, there's a different calculation. Center weighted average, I think, is the better one. So if I go around here, and then I want to make sure that we are on 3. So if I go average, spot, and go accentuated average. I can also do a fixed, this would be a fixed. It's using my fixed exposure. Can use a curve map, but for this particular purpose, we'll use this one. And now I'm just really trying to get something that would make sense in this particular case. So 3.5 seems to make case. Let's go in and have a check. Actually, no light bulb here. That's not a problem. Okay, let's have a look. You can see the brightest spot is here. You can see there's a bright spot here and bright spot there. So yeah, it's doable. It works. Turn on ignite. Makes it a bit more dramatic, but it's a bit too much for me. So let's do a more subtle one. Go to lighting. We want to make sure actually let's give it a shot for ray tracing. I haven't actually tried that yet. Okay, we're good to know. How about just ray tracing in general? Probably not. Alright. I haven't actually tried these things yet. Anyway, another thing is go to lift and gain. Turn that on. We don't need this for now. And okay. Switch the position. It is. Have a look. Go back. On, off, right? Because keeping on, we have a lot of lights. That's why we're doing this, right? We don't want the contrast that comes from using ACs. So we're using this to get some control again. Okay. And the next thing we want to do, let's see, shadow midtones. We want to maybe have a bit darker control here. Then maybe the highlights, we want to dim it a bit down, but not too much. And then the midtones, we might want to even it out a bit, something like this. Right, so we're kind of making a bit of a contrast again. And together, if I do this, so they balance it out, right? They darken it. Okay. All right. Where is it? Actually, don't need to do that. There's so much more to this, so I'm trying not to do too many. Let's do color adjustment. So we can increase, we can dumb it down. So I will purposely kind of bleach it out, and then I will constantly try and see if I need more contrast. And then if that is the case, I go back here. I go, okay, is it too much gamma? Is it too little? Right? Go have a decision here. So I'm okay with this type. I'm okay with this type, and I'm okay with this. And here you can see, maybe you want to keep it, or maybe you want to increase it. You can see what happens if you do that though. So for this one, I'm looking at the stairs actually. Then let's make it a bit obvious. And then for the shadows, let's brighten it up a little bit. Done. Okay. Color curves, let's not get into that. Shadowing. Let's do shadows. All. So you can also play with the shadows. 500 seems to be fine. I think it's okay with these default settings. We already have them. Shadowing, contact shadow. They are useful. Like contact shadow is pretty useful for exterior scenes. It's kind of like a fake way of showing the shadows. Micro shadow. Not really seeing a lot of difference. The sky, we have an HDR sky, so let's see. It's already on the default one actually. Need this one as well. HDR, static. Dynamic. So let's do this. Okay. This one definitely might be too much. So let's keep this off. Try this again. Let's do the shadows. Let's do this. Let's make this a bit brighter. Actually turn down the highlights a bit. Then we should be able to turn it down here. All right, there we go. That's good. Well, it's not super good. Wait, it does work. All right. So I'm looking at this bloom over here right now. So okay. Can live with it. It's okay. But the tint is not actually correct. Most of the lights are around this color. So let's do that. Okay. Nope. And maybe the exclusion. Let's see if we can ground a little bit. Turn up. Turn up. Turn up. Okay. So that out of the way, we will now do 4960. We don't really need ambient occlusion. We'll just keep it there. It's not really no point, but just for the fun of it, we'll keep it. And let's do optics. I want actually a higher indirect and 256 indirect because we don't actually need that high because it's just one little direct light coming in. Optics. That's good. Don't think I need that, but let's just see what happens. And we wait a bit. And while we're doing that, let's go to the camera inspector. There we go. Let's do 100. I like this one. And there we go. So yeah, you can see that it's pretty doable to use this. I wouldn't necessarily use this approach. I would probably do things a bit differently, but it's just a quick way of approaching this. Also, keep in mind I've never actually properly used HDRP, so this is kind of out of the box that I try doing to get a feel for things. Now you can basically take your screenshots, right? You can do what you need to do, get a feel for things, you know. Play with the camera. You know, look for problems, fix them as you go. Maybe you want to show this side, so you have a look, see how that works. Maybe you want to go inside and have a look, show that like this, or maybe your hair when you're looking over to the stairs, you know, so you're having this kind of look. That said, so it was like a basic introduction, but having said that, I would probably turn off this, right, and I would probably turn off this and this, and I would do a light bake like this. And yeah, I guess I will wait a little bit in this case. And we wait. And we wait. It's calculating the new update, the changes. one thing has to be done here as well. This. And we wait a bit. Wait. Oh, it's taking time, so I'm just gonna do it right away. Just to cancel very quickly. Go to real time very quickly. And do this. Do a bake. Actually, let's do a proper clean bake data. Something like that. And then I will do a general light. I would probably keep it around that, I guess. And we wait. So yeah, I would probably have done something like this. Maybe too bright. Might have been tweaking that a bit, but generally, yeah, I would have made this the focal point and had like a mood lighting around in different places. But I would generally want the people to have a look over there, and then maybe a secondary have a look over there, and kind of think maybe he's in there, the character's in there looking for something. So these are the things that I would do differently. Like if I was actually doing it a bit more seriously, someone was paying me to do it, I would be a bit careful on making sure that in fact that there was a more of a story and a mood involved in what I was doing. So I wouldn't actually just light everything and say, okay, that's good. This was more of a opportunity for you to get an idea of things. So I might actually spread it like this, you know. So you can already see just with less light is actually often a lot more interest in what's going on. You can even zoom in, you know, and don't have to be very complicated. And you're using those lights to create a mood maybe. So, and you might, you know, do something like this, maybe around 60 focal point, and have the ISO and everything you don't need to do unless you're actually doing more accurate physical based lighting. You will actually possibly use the physical camera to get the light as you want it to be. So yeah, these are some of the things that I would probably do a bit differently, keeping it more interesting that way. So I hope you liked it. Feel free to leave in comments and questions if you want it more in depth, even more serious and more detailed. I'd be happy to consider that. Thank you very much.